The eviction notice arrived on the same day the drought killed the last stand of cottonwoods by the creek. My uncle's voice was a crackling line of static from the ranch house in New Mexico. "Maya, honey, it's over. The bank's calling the loan. We've got 60 days. The Red Hawk Ranch had been in our family since 1887. 5 generations of Sandovals had worked that high desert land, raising cattle and quarter horses. My grandfather, Mateo Sandoval, had been the last true steward of it, a geologist for the USGS by trade, a rancher by blood. He died when I was 7 in what was ruled a hiking accident in the Gila wilderness. After that, the ranch began a slow, thirsty decline under my father and uncle. I flew home from Tucson, where I worked as a cultural resource manager for the Park Service, tracking ancestral Puebloan sites. The ranch house, a low-slung adobe hacienda, felt smaller, baked hollow by the sun. My father, Javier, sat at the kitchen table, staring at the foreclosure papers. He didn't look up. "There's nothing left, mija," he said. "The water rights are contested. The land's worth more to the mining consortium than it is to us now." The mining consortium, Sol Corp Minerals. They'd been circling the valley for a decade, buying up parcels, seeking permits for a massive rare earth element mine. Our ranch was the last, largest holdout, blocking access to a crucial canyon they needed. "Can we fight it?" I asked, though I knew the answer. The legal bills had drained the family accounts years ago. My uncle Carlos gestured helplessly. "Without proof of sustainable water yield, the bank won't refinance. And Grandpa Mateo's old surveys, they're gone, lost after he died." Something prickled at the back of my neck. My grandfather had been meticulous, a man who recorded rainfall in a ledger for 40 years. He wouldn't have lost his surveys. I spent the next 2 days in his old study, a room frozen in the 1990s. Maps of the Gila National Forest, shelves of rock samples. In the corner, his heavy oak desk. On a hunch, I moved it. The floorboard beneath was loose. Under it lay a metal strongbox, the kind meant to survive a fire. It wasn't locked. Inside, I found no surveys. Instead, I found his personal field journal from his final year and a sealed envelope addressed to my father, dated the week before he died. My hands shook as I opened the journal. It was written in a mix of English and Spanish in his tight, precise script. Not just notes on rock strata, but observations, worries. Solcorp agents came again, offered triple the land value. They aren't interested in the grazing land. They want access to Cañón del Águila. They asked specific questions about the volcanic tuff layers. They know something is there. Reran the water tests for the spring in Sector 7. Anomalous readings, high mineral content but not consistent with the local geology. Signature suggests a deep, ancient aquifer, possibly a closed system, isolated for millennia. If tapped, it could water the entire valley, but it would need careful study. Told Javier and Carlos about the aquifer possibility today. Their eyes lit up with dollar signs. I warned them, this water is old, possibly connected to sacred sites. It is not just a resource, it is a legacy. They didn't understand. Solcorp's money whispers louder than my words. The final entry turned my blood to ice. Confirmed it today. The anomalous minerals are lanthanides. Solcorp isn't just after water. They've found a rare earth deposit underneath the aquifer, a massive one. They'll gut the canyon to get it, poison the water for centuries. I filed a preliminary injunction with the State Geological Survey to designate the canyon a protected site based on the unique hydrological system. It will stall them. Javier is furious, says I've doomed the ranch, that Solcorp made a side deal with him. If he convinces me to sell, they'll give him a consulting job, a way out. He says I care more about rocks than my own family. He doesn't see that I am fighting for the family's soul. I'm hiking out to the canyon tomorrow to take final samples to make the case bulletproof. I've hidden the core sample data and the injunction paperwork. They can't be in this house. If something happens to me, look to the herradura. The herradura, the horseshoe. I tore open the sealed letter to my father. It was short. Javier, if you are reading this, you went looking for what I hid, and I am likely gone. Do not make the deal with SolCorp. They will destroy this land to suck the wealth from its veins. The real wealth is the water. The legacy is the land. Protect it. I have filed legal protections. Use them. Forgive me for not trusting you with this burden sooner, but your desperation scared me. Con amor, tu padre. The letter had never been opened. I sat on the dusty floor, the journal heavy in my lap. My grandfather hadn't died in an accident. He'd been silenced. And my father had likely known. Had he made the side deal anyway? Was the ranch's failure not just bad luck, but a slow poison administered by SolCorp to force a sale? I needed the proof my grandfather hid. The core samples, the injunction paperwork. Look to the herradura. The ranch's original forge and blacksmith shop still stood, a crumbling stone building. Over its door hung a rusted, giant ornamental horseshoe, the herradura, forged by my great-great-grandfather. I got a ladder. The horseshoe was bolted to the lintel. Behind it, sealed in a PVC pipe coated in dust, I found a roll of documents and a small, dense core sample in a sealed tube labeled with GPS coordinates. The documents were a game-changer. The formal injunction request to the New Mexico State Geological Survey detailing the unique, isolated aquifer and its connection to documented ancestral Puebloan ceremonial sites in the canyon, and a map showing the exact location of the aquifer's primary resurgence, a spring in Cañón del Águila, and the estimated boundaries of the rare earth deposit beneath it. The legal implication was huge. If the aquifer was designated as a sole source aquifer linked to cultural resources, state and federal law could block any mining that threatened it. The ranch wouldn't just be saved, the canyon would be protected. Forever. But the injunction had never been processed. My grandfather died, and someone, my father, had ensured it never left this box. I drove to the state offices in Santa Fe. A grizzled veteran geologist named Dr. Helen Reyes remembered my grandfather. Mateo? One of the best field men we ever had. He called me about this. He was excited and scared. Said he was sending paperwork. It never arrived. We assumed he changed his mind before his accident. He didn't change his mind, I said, laying the documents on her desk. He was stopped. Her face grew grave as she read. This changes everything, Maya. This is a Class 5 hydrological system, and with the cultural site overlay. She looked at me. This is enough to trigger an immediate environmental and cultural review. It would put a 5-year minimum hold on any mining permits for that canyon. 5 years. The ranch could be saved. SolCorp's deal would collapse. But I needed to know the truth about my grandfather's death and my father's role. I found my father not at the house, but at the family cemetery plot on the hill. He stood before my grandfather's simple headstone. "You found it," he said, not turning around. His shoulders were slumped. "The journal, the letter. Why didn't you open it, Poppy?" He was silent for a long time. The desert wind whipped around us. "I was angry at him," he finally said, his voice rough. "I thought he was a stubborn old fool, choosing rocks over his family's survival. SolCorp offered me a way out, a job, a signing bonus big enough to pay off the second mortgage. All I had to do was get him to sell, or get him to step aside." The implication hung in the dry air. "The day he died," I pressed. "What happened?" He was going to Santa Fe to file the papers in person. I followed him. I just wanted to talk to him, to reason with him. We argued on the trail, near the cliff edge. He said I was betraying everything the Sandovals stood for. I grabbed his arm. He shook me off, lost his footing on the loose scree. It was so fast. He fell. Tears cut tracks through the dust on his face. I panicked. I told the rangers we got separated, that I found him at the bottom. They called it an accident. And when I got home, I was too much of a coward to look for what he'd hidden. I think I wanted it to stay buried, because if I found it, I'd have to face what I'd done. It wasn't murder, it was manslaughter, born of anger and desperation. A terrible, irreversible moment. "And the deal with Solcorp?" I asked, my voice cold. "It fell through. They said without the full property, it was useless. They stopped returning my calls. The bonus money dried up, and the ranch kept dying." "So you let us all believe it was just bad luck? You let Tio Carlos work himself sick. You let me believe my grandfather was just a victim of the wilderness. What good would the truth have done?" he cried. "It would have done this," I shouted, holding up the core sample. "He was trying to save us, not with a quick cash payout, but with a legacy. Clean water, protected land. That's the real fortune." I told him about Dr. Reyes, about the injunction being reactivated. Hope, terrible and fragile, dawned in his red-rimmed eyes. Will it be enough? "It might save the land. It won't save you." I had recorded his confession. I made a choice, not the police. Not yet. The legal battle would be public, brutal. Solcorp would use any scandal to discredit our family, to claim we were unstable, unreliable stewards. Instead, I used the leverage. I presented my father with a deal, drafted by a fierce environmental lawyer from Santa Fe. He would sign over his share of the ranch to me and Tio Carlos. He would voluntarily check in to a residential treatment center for depression and alcoholism, paid for by the family trust I would establish, and he would write a full, private confession to be held in escrow, to be used only if Solcorp or anyone else challenged the provenance of our evidence. In return, I would not publicly accuse him. The world would continue to believe Mateo Sandoval died in a tragic hiking accident. The injunction held. The environmental and cultural review was triggered. Solcorp's stock dipped. They quietly dropped their options on the surrounding land. With the immediate threat gone, the bank refinanced the ranch based on the potential of the aquifer. We established the Sandoval Legacy Trust, dedicating Cañón del Águila as a private conservation easement, partnering with the Pueblo tribes to protect the cultural sites. Tio Carlos runs the cattle operation again, with a lighter heart. I split my time between the Park Service and managing the trust. We're exploring sustainable, minimal-impact ways to study the aquifer. My father lives in a quiet adobe house on the far edge of the property, tending a garden. We speak, but the canyon of what happened lies between us. Some truths don't set you free. They just show you the prison you've been living in. My grandfather's journal is displayed in the ranch's main room, not as a relic of a death, but as a blueprint for a future. He wasn't just a geologist, he was a prophet, and I, the granddaughter with dust on her hands and a talent for reading the land, finally decoded his message. The real treasure wasn't underground. It was the courage to protect what you love, even from the people you love. He signed. The fight was gone from him.